Hello and welcome to the One Shot Show where GMs go to level up. My name is Patty. I'm joined as always here by Matt. And Matt, you really strike me as a DIY do-it-yourself sort of person. Like about the home, doing your tasks,
building a deck,
building a shed. Whereas I'm more likely to rely on a contractor or someone else to bring them in. You get a bloke. I get someone in to just help me out a little bit because I'm not that hands-on a type.
I love that because you've got more of the workman's outfit right now.
I'm wearing my overalls today.
And I'll be honest, I have built a deck and a shed, but I'm definitely a get a bloke kind of guy. I'm not interested in doing it again.
Wait, you've got both though.
Well, I also live in a townhouse, so there's nowhere to build a deck and a shed.
Oh, wild. I mean, yes, I'm appalling at those things, but my partner is a very capable carpenter, so he makes almost everything.
But can't do DIY when you're renting.
Absolutely not.
We are talking about player archetypes, or indeed providing for your players. These are the last two archetypes that we put on the docket when we originally devised this format.
Yeah.
Today, we are talking about the skill monkey and the hammer.
Yeah.
Now, I think the skill monkey is one that people are more familiar with as a general term. So shall we start with that one?
Yeah, let's start with the skill monkey. The skill monkey, generally speaking, to me, it's the person who's invested most of their character sheet in making sure that they're a bit of a jack of all trades, that they are able to take on a lot of most typically the non-combat sides of role playing, who are always able to add essentially a hefty bonus to whatever check it is they're trying to do, be it to do with tinkering or exploration or stealth or social or recall.
And I guess the key differentiation here is obviously way back when we first did this format, we talked about the face.
Yeah.
And this is not the face. They may have tools for social downtime, but they are not necessarily the role-play tools. They're not necessarily the interaction tools. They're often more along the lines of shaping the interaction, having access to meta resources that may be able to be spent, things like checks that could be, rather bonuses that they could be added to face rolls. A cleric casting guidance is exactly this. Talk to me about the kinds of skills a skill monkey wants to have. And I guess we'll start in the context of 5th edition. Who are our skill monkeys?
Oh, I mean, you can make a bard skill monkey, you make a rogue a nice skill monkey.
Rogue was one of the classics?
A lot of the times. Yeah, I think that in a different sort of Swiss Army knife kind of way, a wizard can be a skill monkey.
The utility wizard is a kind of skill monkey.
To go I'm going to dedicate most of my spell choices to solving problems. Yeah.
So then, providing for the skill monkey. What does the skill monkey want when they show up to the table with all of these fascinating side skills? They've got lockpick, they've got a bit of performance.
They've got a few too many tools, they've got a few too many languages sometimes.
Languages is a big one.
I feel again, we sort of always begin here. It's kind of I love as a GM knowing what's on my player's sheet most of the time and going okay, I know that here is a thing that you've invested in, and there will be times where it will be useful. So sometimes if I know that a player for their for their backstory is really invested in animal handling, I'll make sure that comes up more often than animal handling will ever fucking come up in my normal game.
They know that they can buy the cheap horses because they can keep them under control.
Absolutely, or performance or something like this for a character who's playing an actor, and they pick performance knowing as a flavor thing, but to really honor that it's there. With a skill monkey, you can really go all over the map. You can really design puzzles and problems that they're going to be leaning into with that skill that no one else is going to have anything halfway good at, but they're probably going to have a bit of an edge in.
Now, there's two interesting things here. First, for what it's worth, I really feel like the skill monkey, more so than so many of the other archetypes, even more so than the face, relies on the robustness of your simulation.
Yeah.
The face requires roleplay opportunities in order to really get the most out of what they're trying to do. Most of the other archetypes we've talked about, they tend to be very combat-oriented, or even in the case of the Glass Hammer, where they're highly one-dimensional, you only need to, deliver them the one thing that they want to be dimensional toward. I think the skill monkey requires something more broad. The skill monkey really shines when there is a situation that is presented that could be tackled in many different ways. And it is actually their hodgepodge of useful abilities that opens up a broader range of opportunities. Let's take an example of we are trying to steal away into the mayor's mansion and find some incriminating document. I know I rely on this a lot, but it means that, the rogue who is very acrobatic and also has lockpicking skills and also knows a bit of animal handling can distract the hounds that guard the property, scale up to the second-story window, break into the mayor's office, while the bard, is down front chatting shit with the guards to keep them busy, right? If you don't have that guy there, your best shot is the bard is going to talk our way through.
Absolutely. And the skill monkey provides the alternate approach if and when you need it.
And it does so in a way that actually allows the other players' core conceits to kind of agglomerate to the skill monkey's repertoire, right? The really bulky barbarian, instead of having to fight their way in, can start a brawl in the street out front with the paladin to draw out the guards of the manor, because they know that the rogue can go in and do this thing, and the bard can be over here talking about this thing, and the ranger is going to use their animal handling, and so on.
Well, this has got into the other thing that I go, for skill monkeys at my table, they are often the most helpful player at the table. So I go you got to give a skill monkey a chance to help other players out. This is really one of the...
They're a force multiplier.
Yeah. There's a really cool... I don't know if actually it made it into the final edition of 5.5e, but it changed the help rules to be you can only help if you're proficient in the skill.
Yes.
So if you've got the skill monkey, they're always going to be at your side and they're going to be helping you out throughout.
Which is something that I had already implemented in my regular 5th edition games.
It's a beautiful logical step. But to go I've got these 9 proficiencies, I'm going to be there posing as your servant, helping you out. I'm going to be the person ducking around to the other side of the building to do it at the time. But it feels really, really cool. Some other...
I was going to say, just something I want to throw out there, because, God, I never miss an opportunity to talk about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Just a note in how skill proficiencies work in that system is you get, depending on your class, a certain number of proficiencies, and it's more for the more skill monkey-esque classes like bards and rogues. You then get additional ones based on your intelligence modifier. So it gives a little bit more oomph to what intelligence can do. So the way to become a skill monkey, regardless of class, is to invest more heavily in intelligence. That means an alchemist that's highly intelligent can have a broader repertoire of skills, which is really, really interesting. The other thing it has, and I really recommend you introduce this in 5th edition if you have the opportunity, is there's a couple of skills that on your character sheet have blank lore.
Oh, I've done this.
Yes.
I'm about to start a new 3-hander, and I've gone recall and 3 blank spaces to basically be this is my specialist area of knowledge.
Exactly. You get to put your own one in, depending on what makes sense for you. So I had a bard that had been a brewer, and he had brewing lore. And I meant that any check that came up where, maybe alchemy would be the idea skill, but brewing was close enough. He could still attempt the check, but it would have a slightly higher DC. I really recommend implementing that, or even custom skills. I've had a campaign where I introduced a linguistics skill to 5th edition because it just made sense for something that was going to come up a lot. And then the skill monkey player took it and they got rewarded for that because, look, you told them that there was going to be this new skill in the game, and the skill monkey is going to take the skill.
Yeah, so
you added.
Heaps of stuff in there. Make sure that if there are tools, you some players get so excited by tools, and again, it's one of those things that the game doesn't have much direct use for them. That's a cook on you for the GM a lot of the time. But to really make sure that they come up into play is so exciting. I also think that when you come to combat, make problem solving using whatever tool set your players got a cool and useful thing that they can do.
Yeah, this is where rewarding somebody for taking the medicine skill is a really big thing. One of the little sub rules I've often introduced in 5th edition is certain injuries require medicine before magical healing. Like a broken arm, if you just heal it with magical healing, the bones are going to knit together, but they're going to knit together in whatever shape they were at. So you might have a really badly misshapen arm. So the guy who's got medicine can set the arm and put a splint in, pop the joint back into place, and then magical healing is going to accelerate the healing process.
Yeah.
So it makes the medicine skill worthwhile, and again, the skill monkey gets rewarded.
Yeah.
And then you can also introduce things where maybe they can do some non-magical healing in a pinch with a healer's kit.
It's something that I've noticed Brennan doing a lot on this season of Critical Roles. Are you still up to date?
I am, yep.
Yeah, me too. It's crazy what's going on at the moment. Is that he will often, when he calls a skill, go, investigation will get you this kind of information, but religion will get you this kind of information.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's BS or not, but certainly at the table, the conversation that brings up for the players basically going like, what am I going to invest in? Am I going to go for something with a slightly lower bonus in, but I'm actually more interested in the religious aspect as opposed to like the origins of this book and where it came from. Super interesting.
I think that is one thing, is low diegetic GMs really do suit skill monkeys better than the way I do things, in all fairness, which is why I like playing in systems that kind of deliver more of that baked into the rules so that I don't have to peel back the curtain too hard to deliver them. I'm gonna flip us over to the other side of this, though, and talk about the hammer.
The hammer!
So, the hammer is the guy that is just fucking good at everything. This guy just wants to bamf his way through the game, right? It's not in a min-max kind of way. The interesting thing about them, the reason I differentiate this from the glass cannon is the glass cannon is highly one-dimensional, right? A barbarian is a glass cannon because they are extremely strong, they're extremely bulky in terms of hit points, they got great ways to mitigate physical damage, they might have some ways to mitigate some physical damage, some magical damage, and then whoops, they got mind-controlled, right? Huge weakness. Can't talk their way out of a leather bag, right? A paladin is a hammer.
Yes.
A paladin, they've got good martial skills, they've got heavy armor, they can heal themselves, they've got some spells, they've got some social abilities. Like, you tell me what the paladin's fucking weaknesses are, right?
Yes.
But that's still interesting. And there is a certain kind of player that wants to show up with a character that has as close to zero weaknesses as possible. Now, that might be a certain kind of monk, right? It might be a fighter that can use basically any weapon that has a noble background. They've got a little bit to lean on in terms of roleplay, even if they don't necessarily have the charisma skills. They go into Eldritch Knights. They've got some magical options, you know. They want to mitigate their weaknesses and still be highly effective in combat, right? Yeah. The hammer is my favorite kind of character to have at the table because they are the motherfucking 9-to-5er. Everything else orbits around the hammer. Everything else exists with respect to that, and that's just how they like it. They don't mind that Jimmy the Rogue can roll these crazy big hits because they know that Jimmy the Rogue is only doing that because they can stand in front of the guy that Jimmy is sneaking around the back of to get his sneak attack, right? And they can stand there and stay there because they're the motherfucking hammer, right? That's what they want. They want to become the bedrock of the team.
Yeah, I've seen druids take up this role in 5e as well.
Druids are fantastic at it. There's actually a lot of classes that really suit themselves quite well to this. Even a particularly well-built swords bard can accomplish the same thing. A wizard can accomplish this. Wizards, if they go into the right utility, can do a lot to mitigate their weaknesses and have very, very few, right? So how do you serve the hammer? How do you deliver them the gameplay that they ideally want? Well, honestly, they'll find it. The way you do it is don't push them too hard, right? Every so often, I like to nudge my hammer so that they get the benefit of the weakness they have covered, or indeed the covering that they have done of that weakness.
Yeah, so they get to feel good that they've covered
exactly. It is the wizard, and then someone charges up to him and starts wailing on him with a sword, and the wizard gets to go, oh, here's mirror image. Here's Misty Step. Here's all these defensive skills that I have teched into, and I'm going to use my portent here to make that one a miss because I pre-rolled that. And now
I'm durable, so I'm nice and chunky.
And it's enough time for the barbarian to come into his rescue and the monk to get a stunning strike off. Now, the wizard had to spend a lot of his resources for that. He's not casting fireball for the rest of this combat. He's not using counter spells anymore, but he got to do exactly what he's built for, and he's having a great time.
Yeah. It's so interesting as well because I find that a character, when I played a character who I built that way, I feel always very confident in my role play. I often feel very confident in my note. And also, I feel like when I GM for them, like they gravitate towards central positions, and when you go like, don't worry about them. Typically, if a player is built around that way, like they haven't zoned down a really particular thing, either for a min-maxy reason or for something else. It's like they can be relied upon for so many things.
Yeah,
so exciting.
And it opens up those more sort of esoteric opportunities that aren't necessarily mechanical and in combat. They're often those role play opportunities then get opened up. Look, the hammer is the guy that the face wants in the scene with him because they're standard. They're all reliable. It's, the hammer is a jobbing mercenary, okay? They might not have all the airs and graces, but they're not going to say some unhinged nonsense like the kleptomaniac rogue is. They're not going to be like fully head in the clouds and like nature pilled like the druid is, right? They're going to be able to handle themselves in the scene. I had a really cool one like this. I had a fighter at a table that I had who had teched into like legal lore. Oh, cool. So they were often in some of the more negotiation-heavy scenes, and it's because they were quite senior in a mercenary company. They knew how to handle iron-tight contracts. It was a big part of their job, right? So. Look, they didn't have a whole lot of like social skills, but they were always there because they could make sure that everything was on the up and kosher. And that even included reeling in the bard who was the party face at the time sometimes when they started to get a little bit too, a little bit too boisterous, a little bit too out there with these incredible things they promised. Like I said, I love having a hammer at my table. I love having multiple hammers at my table. A party can just be 5 dads. That's it. 5 dads, no kids, just 5 dads. That's kind of what it feels like, right? They're just they're the rock of the party, both mechanically and then often that bleeds into a kind of character approach that has similar kind of solidity to it, like a paladin with a strong sense of what is morally right. Not necessarily, justice shall be done regardless of the cost. Somebody who is relaxed, morally nuanced. It could be a monk who is very serene and, the only person in the party that is well adjusted because they aren't like some orphan that grew up on the street.
Yes, they are typically well adjusted to these characters as well, aren't they?
And again, it's a broader kind of there's a more holisticism to this. And I know it sounds really paradoxical of like, well, how do you challenge somebody with no weaknesses? The point is you aren't meant to challenge this character. The point is you are meant to let everyone else click into place around them because they deliver opportunities for everyone else at the table that you can then push on. And then the hammer gets to see from one step removed the benefit of them being there. Trust me, they know what works about their character. They are having a good time because that's why they came in with a hammer.
Yeah. Beautiful. Hey, look. And the series ended. So
that's
exciting.
The series. Oh.
Beautiful. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us here on the One Shot Show. I hope that you learned something about like the players at your table and how to cater for them. We're going to be thinking we've got some pivots around this sort of idea, but I love this idea. As a GM, my favorite thing is to go, who's at the table? How do we make sure they're having a good time? And I feel like this particular thread that we've been discussing has been pulling on that really, really well.
Yeah,
cool.
This has been the final providing for your players, and we will see you in the next episode. Hello, dear listener. If you're enjoying listening to The One Shot Show, we'd love to have you on a Discord server. Get in touch with us over our socials or email and we'll give you an invite link. If you back us on Patreon, you'll get some additional stuff in that Discord server, such as contributing questions to our live monthly Q&A sessions where we go over last month's episodes. If you back us on Patreon, you'll also get access to a whole bunch of other stuff, such as bonus episodes and all sorts of other cool things. Go ahead and check it out, and thanks for listening.